Chuck's World of Infinite Mojo, brought to you by Holy Chuck Burgers. Our business is burgers.
Good morning, Katarina Witt. There's no such thing as bad boys, only boys with bad hair.
Sponsored by Maxwell's Clothiers, your bespoke tailor since 1961. And now, your host of Chuck's World of Infinite Mojo, Chuck Basti. Wow. Welcome back. This is Chuck's World of Infinite Mojo. I'm Cam LaRock, your producer. Of course, I'm with Chuck Basti. Chuck, it's been too long since I've seen that intro, and it still holds up. It's great.
Yeah, I love that intro as well. And I got to give you props as well because you're the one who picked up that music. And that's my jam, man. When I hear that, I'm like, yeah, it's my jam. There you go.
I needed to hear that, Chuck. It's been too long.
Yeah, it has been. And actually, you grew your hair back as well since our last podcast.
It's grown back, thankfully. That's a lesson learned right there. You will not see me with a bald head again.
So this is what we're saying, kids. There's no such thing as bad boys, only boys with bad hair. And Cam learned that lesson, so make sure that's a learning lesson right there.
It's fun to experiment and try new things, but maybe know your limits and don't push it too far.
And play within it as well. So, well, Cam, I'm really excited today because as a longtime Flyers fan, I've got the privilege tonight of introducing Charlie Minn, who's a filmmaker, and he's got a movie coming out called The Swede of Philadelphia, which profiles the life and crash and tragedy of Philadelphia Flyers goalie, all-star goalie, and Vezina Trophy winner Pelle Lindbergh, November the 10th, 1985, when I was a 13-year-old kid. And just like where were you when JFK was shot, or when 9/11 happened, or when Lady Di passed away, I think if you're someone from a Generation X generation like I am, and you're a Flyers fan, you knew exactly where you were when you heard the news that Philadelphia Flyers goalie Pelle Lindbergh had died in a car crash in his Porsche. And I was 13, and my dad took me aside because he knew it was going to be bad news bears. And he took me aside, and I cried and I cried and I cried. And I clipped out every single newspaper article that I had for the next 3 days from the Toronto Sun and the Toronto Star, just wondering if Pelle Lindbergh was going to make it or not. And as we know, he didn't. And now Charlie Minn has put together a documentary for the first time ever that I've known of anybody putting this together, almost 40 years to the day when the premiere of the movie comes out. So we're really excited.
Yeah, Chuck, I mean, I'm really excited too. We talked a bit about LA before, but like I said, I just kind of know about the iconic white mask. So I'm really excited to learn a bit more today. And I mean, I just want to say 40 years since his passing, and we're talking about him. There's a documentary being made, so he clearly did something right while he was with us, and I'm excited to find out more about it.
Yeah, cool. All right, let's bring Charlie into the room, and we'll see you on the back end.
Yep. Have a good show, Chuck. See you then.
Thanks, mate. And there he is, Charlie Minn. You're on mute right now, but welcome to Chuck's World of Infinite Mojo. Thanks for being your guest, and I'm really excited about talking about your movie today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks so much for having me.
So I just wanted to kind of introduce the following right now, just to a little bit of your background. You've done 45 films as well. You've done us the huge favor of doing storytelling about our, beloved Pelle Lindbergh after 40 years, which is amazing timing-wise. I think every 5 years I go on Facebook and I actually come back to all my Philadelphia Flyer fans, and we actually have a tribute, to Lindbergh every 5 years or so. So 40 is a big one as well. Your premiere comes out on November the 7th, which is just 2 days from when the actual accident really happened, in the wee hours of the morning of the 10th as well. So just thought we'd just talk a little bit about that as well, and just get your take on where you were when you heard the news that Pelle Lindbergh passed away.
I was in high school, and thinking back to those days, it was my second brush with death. The first one was Thurman Munson, the all-star catcher for the New York Yankees in 1979, and he died of a crash as well. That one was a plane. Pelle was an automobile. So, I mean, when you're in high school, you don't really think about death. Chances are you never had any brush with death, experience with death, losing a friend or a family member. So when Pelle passed away, that was my second brush with death. I was in high school at the time.
What was the impact that you had on you when Pelle Lindbergh passed away? And obviously such a tragic sense, him being 26. I mean, Munson was a little older as well, and his plane crash, he was piloting his jet when it went down as well. The same thing as Pelle piloting the Porsche as well. But what was what was the impact it had on you as well, that 40 years later, you're now making a movie about him?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say at the time, because you're not used to stuff like that, just shock, just absolute shock. Like, wow, this could actually happen to an athlete. And like Thurman Munson, it happened during the season. Thurman Munson died in August. Pelle died in November. So that's very tough for a club to keep playing after losing a beloved teammate like that. So I would just say shock would probably be the best way to describe how I was feeling when I heard the news.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, when you're coming from a creative standpoint as well, you're a filmmaker, you have to be the storyteller and narrator of the story as well. So you have to compartmentalize each scene, how it goes, take the viewer through each step of how it goes. What was your why in building up to the movie, of like why you wanted to do this 40 years later? I mean, obviously, people before you haven't done this. This is a very challenging project. It's very, very still a sore point with most of the Philadelphia Flyers brass, I would think, and as well as some of the old alumni players. But this is a big why for you. So what was so purposeful for you that you wanted to share this story?
Well, I was a goaltender in my teens, and I watched Pelle play live growing up on Long Island while the Islanders were winning all those Stanley Cups. I watched Pelle play actually in the 1983 All-Star game. Wow. When Wayne Gretzky lit him up for 4 goals in one period. And I saw Pelle play as a Flyer in the Nassau Coliseum, just regular season games. So I was just struck by his style. Not a tall goalie by any stretch. Back then the goalies were a lot smaller, shorter, I should say, like Don Beaupre and Rocky Vachon, Andy Moog, smaller goalies. Today I'm not even sure if Pelle could play in the league because everybody seems to be 6'2" and higher. But I was just kind of struck by the way he played the position. He relied totally on his instincts and quickness because he wasn't a big goalie. So like today, a lot of goalies do the butterfly. They got the big equipment. I mean, Pelle was the last guy that would do that. And he probably had the last kick save and a beauty description from a play-by-play guy, because you don't see those saves anymore in the NHL. Every goalie today goes down. They're sort of in a hybrid. Again, big pads, big upper body gear. They fill up the net. And back when Pelle played, he had to totally rely on his reflexes, his instincts, and his positioning to get through it. So his style, I think, his flashy style kind of caught my attention, being a goalie myself.
Yeah, and I grew up in the 70s and early 80s as well as a goalie myself. I was more of a Tony Esposito fan myself, so I was always a butterfly goalie. One thing I've actually, I had the privilege of interviewing Bernie Parent over a period of years as well, multiple times. And one of the interviews I asked Bernie about, when he was traded down to Toronto and he picked up Jacques Pont as his goaltending partner. And that's where he really blossomed to learn his angles. And, Plante had come out with his book in 72 about goaltending. And Pelle really emulated Bernie as that mentorship. So 3 generations, of what his style looked like, just with more reflexes than what Bernie Parent, I think, had. He was a little bit more electric, had a little bit more energy and spunk to him than what Bernie did as well. But definitely, you're right, the position has changed so much as well. But even 40 years later, we're still talking about him as well. I mean, he's obviously the first European goalie to win the Vezina, first Swedish goalie that Stratton as well. So he had this big legacy he's brought to the table as well. But there also is a tragedy side to the story as well. And this is the reason why we're here. This is the reason why the movie's been made as well. But one of the things, and I had the privilege of premiering your movie as well and watching it. And one of the things that I was really struck with is just the amount of big name guests that you got to collaborate with on this project. talking about Pelle and his life, the accident, more importantly as well. I mean, you got a lot of first responders that were there, eyewitnesses, teammates, big brass as well. So I just thought we'd talk a little bit about how you got everybody on board to talk about the story where maybe 40 years before this, up until now, no one's had the courage to bring this to fruition.
Yeah, making a film, Chuck, is very difficult. The planning part is arguably the most important, and that's pre-production, getting the entire film organized, getting the right interviews, because the crux of any documentary are the interviews. So that's really the bread and butter of a documentary. It stirs the drink, and you really gotta get the right people involved. And after researching everything, I really leaned on Bill Meltzer, who is a producer for the film, and Bill was very helpful in giving me contact information. We had a chance meeting back in 2021 at a Flyer game, and we stayed in touch. And when I noticed that 40 years was coming around for Pelle, I said, why not? Nothing's ever been done on him. I was surprised that even 4 decades later, there's still Facebook pages that memorialize him. I mean, let's face it, every story fades over time. But with Pelle, it just shows you how beloved he was, even though he didn't play very long. And he certainly went out on top. He did everything but win a Stanley Cup. His last year in the league, he won the Vezina, finished third in the Hart Trophy voting behind Dale Howard Chuck, who finished runner-up to Wayne Gretzky. He had 40 wins. He took the Flyers to the finals. They lost to the better team, Edmonton. But it seemed like Pelle was on his way to stardom. He was only 26. And I mean, that's the big question here is what if? What if? What if he lived? Would they have won the cup in '86? Would anyone know who even Ron Hextall is if this didn't happen to Pelle? I mean, chances are Ron would have developed and played, but he certainly came up faster because the Flyers needed goaltending depth. And that's really the big question is what if? And Pelle was not an avid drinker. That's what makes this thing even more sad, is that this was so uncharacteristic of him to be more than twice the legal limit. And boy, what happened that morning? How in the world did he get that intoxicated, which led to his death, which also led to Bennigan's and the Coliseum getting sued by the victims, survivors, because perhaps he was overserved that morning at both places.
Yeah. I can only think about in hindsight right now, and I'm just going to be fairly honest with this, but we live in a social media world now as well. We didn't have that back then. There's no such thing as cell phones or smartphones or video cameras in everybody's pocket as well. I can't tell you how many bad decisions I've probably made my entire life where I've gotten away with stuff just by sheer luck or not. And this one story is just tragic on so many levels as well. And even watching your movie, kind of going through all that, knowing the outcome as well, obviously, you're right. Your head goes to what if, what could have been, what if you just went home early, all those unanswerable ifs that will never get answered as well. But it really does queue up for a great conversation. And I think this is a good opportunity to bring up the trailer of the movie as well. So I'll have Cam bring up the trailer. I just want to give the viewers a chance just to kind of view what to expect as well with your movie as well. The Swede of Philadelphia that Charlie Minn has produced and directed and actually filmed. And we'll be ready for November 7th in Voorhees and outside of Philadelphia, downtown Philadelphia as well. So yeah, Cam, let's roll the trailer.
When you're on the ice, not a word really needs to be spoken. That was the beauty of being a Flyer.
I've played with a lot of great teams, a lot of great players, but that was the closest group of teammates I've ever played with.
In football, you need that quarterback to be special. In hockey, you need your goaltender to be special. And Pelle was just beginning to emerge as a player.
Pelle wanted so desperately to be a star in the NHL. It's what he wanted most.
Pelle Lindbergh. Back to Bernie.
By all accounts, Pelle was not a drinker.
He picked his spots carefully. He would drink, but to be impaired, intoxicated, very rare.
And then the next thing I know, all I seen was a white wall. I said, Pelle, there's a white wall. There's a white wall.
It was a horrific scene. The car was mangled.
The headlight in front of Pelle had to be back 3 feet from where it initially should have been.
I read an article, you almost got into the Porsche. Is that true?
Not really. Me and Murray Craven lived 3 blocks from the establishment, so we just walked home.
Catching the wall right here at this corner, it was devastating.
And he went into cardiac arrest, and CPR was started immediately.
Talked to the police. I asked him, I said, is he going to be okay? And the police officer said, he'll be lucky to live.
Police officer asked us if we had to identify a body. And I remember looking at Murray, and Murray goes, I can't do it. My gut was turning, and I didn't know what to do.
And he passed away when I was holding his hand.
That moment?
That moment, yeah. And so we were destined to be a team.
Pelle, I don't blame you. I never blamed you. I wish I could take that day back. And so many people you've touched in your life miss you.
Wow. That's honestly, it's just so hard to watch in some thoughts as well. Just the amount of grief and tragedy that falls on people, especially, Kathy McNeil, that's like 40 years later. And I don't think she's ever spoken of this, to my knowledge, as well, that you got her into the film is remarkable as well. You also had Ed Parvin Jr. as well,
right.
Was the other passenger. So just talk to me a little bit about how you got the 2 surviving people in the Porsche to come forward and be a collaborator in the film.
Chuck, that's a documentary in itself, how I was able to get those 2. It was hard to find them, obviously, after 40 years. And if it wasn't for, 2 things. I found Kathleen on Facebook, and it took a while because I was actually, I couldn't find her because I was spelling Kathleen incorrectly. The way she spelled it's unique. It's Kathyleen. Yeah, usually there's no Y in Kathleen, so it's actually Kathleen.
Yeah.
And so after finally putting the Y in, she popped up. And with that said, I wasn't even sure if that was exactly her, but she would always wear Philadelphia sports paraphernalia, like the Eagles. So I knew that had to be her. She looked about the age that she would be today. And I'll never forget where I was when I got that phone call from her. I actually had landed at Newark Airport. I was coming back from one of my many trips. I looked at the area code, and I believe it was a 720. So I was like, that's interesting. Who could this be? And it was her. So I guess it was meant to be. So I flew her into Newark, New Jersey. We did the interview. It was very emotional. And then that night I took her and my cameraman to a Devils game just to kind of give her a breather. So it's kind of odd. I mean, for her and I to go to a hockey game of all things right after we did the interview. But what a class act. Just first class all the way. I connected with her right away. It was almost as if we had known each other. And to this day, I consider her a friend. We actually spoke today on the phone. She's going to be coming in for the premiere. She's going to take her mom and her sister. So if people want to meet a miracle crash survivor who went through a lot, lucky to be alive to get to the point. She was sitting in the middle in the console. Yeah, no seatbelt because you can't wear a seatbelt if you're there. Pelle and Ed Parvin, they were not wearing seatbelts either. And to the opinion of the people interviewed, the first responders, they thought that there would have been a different outcome had they worn seatbelts, meaning they both could be, well, Pelle could be alive today. Ed survived it, but maybe Ed's injuries wouldn't have been as severe. So the real lesson there is always wear your seatbelt. I don't care if you're in the back seat. I don't care if you're driving 30 seconds to get to a place. You can't have that attitude. Nothing's going to happen. Oh, we're right there. Well, it just takes a split second for something to happen. And just how sad, just how sad. And then with Ed Parvin, the way I found him, this is a story in itself. We couldn't locate him. I was asking everyone who knew his dad, who sold a lot of real estate to Flyer players back in the 80s out of Cherry Hill. I could not find Ed Parvin Jr. I was going crazy, asking everyone I knew that's connected to that area, connected to the Flyers. So finally, we found a home address for him. And I actually had my cameraman go to his house and ring his doorbell, believe it or not.
Wow.
And I said, okay, if Ed's not there, just leave a note in the right in the front mat right there. Or maybe he left it in the mailbox. It was one of the two. And then that afternoon, I get a phone call from Ed Parvin, who apparently wasn't home when my cameraman rang the doorbell. Or maybe he was and he didn't want to answer it. I don't know. But he read the note, and just like Kathleen, first class all the way. So finding them was a miracle. And then asking them to be in the interview and both agreeing was also a long shot. So this was meant to be.
Yeah.
The stars aligned. Just getting the Miracle Survivors 40-year anniversary. When I interviewed Rick Tocchet, he wasn't even the coach of the Flyers yet.
Yeah.
And then he became the head coach. Getting Bernie's interview was lucky as well. And there's so much emotion surrounding this film right now because of all those things I mentioned. And then when you think about Bernie's passing and how he was basically a father figure to Pelle,
Yeah.
I mean, he may have given me his last interview on record. And I was very, very honored to sit down with him, get to know him during the brief time I had with him. And if you don't mind, I'd like to tell you a quick Bernie story.
Yeah, of course.
That night when I interviewed him, we were at a very loud sports bar. I believe it's called Chickies and Pete's. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, the crab fries. Yeah.
So we get there and it's loud. And when you're doing an interview, that's the last thing you want is a lot of external noise. So when the interview was done, we looked at it and my cameraman said, "We don't have it. It's not usable." So Bernie and his wife had left the establishment. And like 15 or 20 minutes later, after we noticed that we didn't get it, we had to call them and say, "Can you come back?" And only Bernie Perron, what a class guy, turns around and comes back. And that's when we went to a less noisy area of the restaurant and did the interview. And those 15 minutes I'll always cherish. The time I had with Bernie, arguably the most popular Flyer ever. Arguably the greatest Flyer ever. And I don't think Bernie ever had a bad day. He lifts everybody up. He made me a better person. Just that look in his eye. And his answers in the documentary are very, very moving.
Yeah. Just to piggyback on that with Bernie Perrant, obviously when he passed away at the end of September as well, it was a shock. It Pearl Harbored all of us as well. And I went back to the many opportunities I had the chance to interview Bernie or speak with Bernie as well. And I was always really, and I've brought this up to him every single time, really impressed that a man of his era would be as focused as he was on personal growth and learning and regulating emotions and being positive. You know, Bernie had the utmost journey of just always being better, always being positive. He was always engaging. He had a great customer service experience with every single person that ever encountered him as well. And I think right now, the fact that you got one of his last interviews ever, you know, to profile Pelle, because I always found Bernie didn't really want to talk a lot about Pelle. He was very guarded about his experience with Pelle. He would give you snippets, but you got a I'm going to give you one of these because you got one of the most amazing moments with Bernie Perrant talking in a vulnerable moment that he probably has only shared with a handful of people as well. So I just want to give you your accolades and well done. Because when people see that, especially at the end of that movie, it's just there's not going to be a dry eye in that house as well. So before we go to the next shot, I thought we'd just talk a little bit about at the end of the project now, before it premieres, what are your takeaways as a filmmaker telling the story of what you've learned? Because obviously people don't realize how hard it is to write a book or to be a filmmaker. I mean, there's financial restraints on it. There's sacrifices. There's editing room issues that go along with it. There's logistics. There is interviews. There's 1,000 different things that people just don't understand when they're watching a movie of what goes on behind the scenes. So I thought I'd give you a moment just to explain a little bit about that for your process and what your takeaways were.
Yeah, it's vigorous. I mean, if it was that easy, everyone can do it. Right? I mean, I've done 45 of these. So basically I'm running on instinct. I feel like I can make a documentary in my sleep because of those instincts and that experience of 45 documentaries. It's definitely changed me in a way where I definitely have a greater sense of humanity. I found the humanity gene that I don't think I ever had. One of my takeaways from the film, and you're asking great questions tonight, Chuck, is that one decision that any one of us can make can have devastating consequences or consequences in general. And we all have to keep that in mind. When somebody dies, and people die every day, let's face it. When somebody dies, basically 30 to 40 people die as well. Family members, friends, co-workers. You're affecting so many people when something horrible happens to you. And I know sometimes you can't control it. In this case, something really went wrong that morning. Why was he overserved? Did he know he was intoxicated? Maybe you could be drunk and not know it. Depends on the person. Was he baited into drinking more? Like, come on, oh, just try it. I don't know. You know, back in the 80s, it was a different culture where a lot of people drank and drove. And I'm not condoning it. I'm not excusing it. It's obviously wrong. It's very dangerous for yourself and others. But it was a different time back then in the 80s, mid 80s, where I didn't put this in the movie, where I had a couple of people even admit, yeah, I drank and I drove.
Of course.
I mean, it was just a whole different culture back then. There's no social media, so you can get away with it. And yeah, I mean, it's just something happened that morning that made him drink a lot more than he should have. Because again, Pelle was not an avid drinker. And where he crashed his car was not even on the way to Ed Parvin's house, which begs the question, where exactly was he heading to? Now, maybe he was just so impaired that he was driving fast and he didn't really have much direction. He just went. Eddie was sleeping. Kathy was slightly buzzed. And in the movie, she said it. When they left the Coliseum parking lot, Pelle just sped out of there. And Kathleen was trying to tell him, hey, you don't have to show off to me. I've been in sports cars before. Trying to tell him to slow down. And Pelle loved shiny cars, flashy cars. He loved going fast. We hear that in other cases in the movie where people talk about his speed and how much he loved to drive fast. So was this an accident waiting to happen? Possibly.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point about that. And I've thought about this for literally 40 years. I've been to Pelle's grave 3 or 4 different opportunities over the years as well. I've been to his house. Bill Meltzer has been absolutely instrumental in connecting me, like, wherever I need to go with Pelle Lindbergh, the story of Pelle Lindbergh. Bill wrote a book called Behind the White Mask as well with Thomas Nylander as well. And, you know, when I was in Sweden as well, I met with Thomas, and we'll bring some pictures up about Thomas taking me around as well. Thomas wrote the book in Swedish first, and then Bill translated it back and Americanized the book as well. But I have my own real take, and I thought I just shared this briefly. I've had Dr. Russell Barkley on my podcast in the past, and he's an ADHD specialist, and I'm a card-carrying member of the ADHD club. And I can't help but think of all the people I've talked to about Pelle Lindbergh, who are his teammates, supporting crew, that ADHD might have been a factor in, because he liked fast boats, he liked fast cars, he liked our remote control cars, anything that went fast as well. And ADHD is a big tendency to go with that. And I'm not bringing this up as a diagnosis, but just as a thought, a theory of how the two get misaligned and they run under the radar, and then tragedy happens. And a lot of tragedy, it can be avoided, and if it can be, I'd rather have people be ahead of the curve with that as well than that. So I thought we'd just come up with some pictures as well. I actually had a Tony Priolo was a mask maker, and he made me a Pelle Lindbergh mask as well. And over the years, when I was going down to Philadelphia, I was able to meet up with Bernie Perrant and have him sign my mask as well. There we go. I'm in my Ohio State Buckeyes Letterman jacket there. And I think the forehead in the next shot as well has got the picture of me smiling proud as punch. It says to Chuck, Bernie Perrant, Hall of Fame 84 right there, which was my prized possession for years as well. I was just so happy to have that. And it just means so much more now to have that. And as we go along the pictures, speed them up a little bit more at Cam. So that way I can speak a little bit more to them and how they go. This is Pelle Lindbergh's mask, his original mask before the Greg Harrison mask in Hockey Hall of Fame. And there we are there in Silverdale Road, where Pelle hit that corner as well. And I brought the mask with me there. My friend Justin Merigliani took that picture as well when we were there. That's my first time, seeing that curve. There we go. That's the Gary Dornhofer statue that used to be outside the old Spectrum that they moved as well. I look like a crazy person there with the mask on during the daylight as well. But yeah, and there I put the mask right where Pelle, his life, ended on that curve that I still have a hard time with. Anyway, I was privileged enough to travel over to Stockholm as well and go to the cemetery. I'm going to butcher the name in Swedish, but it's Skogsgården or something like that. And it's like the largest cemetery in Europe. It's even bigger than Père Lachaise. There we go. And I took a picture of that when I got off the T-Bana, the subway. And it's a nice little walk on a nice day. I was there in August of 2018 at that time. And there's your front door. Greta Garbo is buried in the cemetery as well. And it takes a really enlightened person to find his headstone. It's not an easy find. You have to go through a bunch of people speaking English in Sweden, trying to find where it is. But when I got there, as you can see, there's flyer pucks on it as well. It's incredibly immaculately taken care of. I left a little note in a Ziploc bag on there, and I had a little toast. I brought 2 cups with me to toast to the little Gumper there, and then made a couple of YouTube videos about it as well. But really quiet. There we are in front of the headstone as well. Really happy the Flyers were allowed to put on the emblem on his headstone as well. He's buried with his sister, who's actually about 20 years older at the time as well, as you can see below. Yeah, and it's really, really, people have put a little garden there, a little wood gates, I guess, in the front there. And you can just see my cups at the very bottom of that picture as well. So beautiful cemetery. And every time I'm in Stockholm, I always make a point to go there and sit down and have 15 minutes with Pelle in my thoughts as well. But I always reflect of like how hard that moment is to get there, knowing I'm going to go to the cemetery, because it's so hard for me on that side as well. Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
You're a true fan, Chuck. I mean, for you to go overseas, it's not like you're going, to Toronto, where you're from. I mean, he was Swedish. And anyone who goes overseas and visits Pelle, I mean, I mean, what did they say? Action speaks louder than words. And that to me is the final stamp of approval that you truly are a genuine, sincere Pelle Lindbergh fan. And I'm sure the Lindbergh family is very appreciative of you showing him that love.
Well, thank you. I mean, like I got to say as well, I'm really lucky that when I was there, Bill Meltzer had given me Thomas's email address, and when I reached out to him as well to say I was in Stockholm, I was in Södermalm, and he's obviously a huge Hammarby fan as well. They have a huge following in Stockholm. I don't know if you know. There's Thomas and I right there. So Thomas wrote the book, Behind the Pelle Lindbergh, Behind the White Mask, as well, and wrote it in Swedish. But he took me in the afternoon for a couple hours around where Pelle lived and where he grew up and where he went to school. There's the church that they had a service when he passed away. They flew his body back to Sweden as well for burial, and that was where he was supposed to be actually married to Sheshti. So that was kind of like a big thing. I was able to go in the church that day with Thomas as well, and just kind of get the grandiosity of it as well. Have the moment. Right behind that church that's where Pelle grew up, right there on that street. That's the corner where he grew up, and just behind that corner is where his house is. Very small, modest house. Obviously, his dad was a dock worker and came from very humble. Everybody in Sweden is pretty much middle class. They're very socialized as well, and that's a school that he grew up with. And in the wintertime, they would freeze that asphalt there, and they would skate there. And he would have older, bigger skates that he would have. That Thomas was telling me all the stories about. They put up boards and chain link fences so to keep the pucks in, but all the kids would be able to play. And that's where he first started to skate as a young kid. And that's actually his house right there on Bronsågatan in Södermalm in south of Stockholm as well. So kind of being inside of that entire story, you kind of get a little bit more, wherewithal of how Pelle grew up, what he was important to. I mean, that's his front door of his house, getting into his apartment building. But Thomas was telling me that when he was born, his dad was such a Hammarby person that he gave him, and there's Thomas in front there. I took a picture of him. He was such a fan of Hammarby sports clubs, soccer and hockey, that he had Pelle's name engraved on a card as a member from the time he was born when he came to the hospital as well. So just a little background as well into Pelle Lindbergh as the person. I thought we'd share that with our viewers as well. If you ever get a chance to go over to Stockholm, Charlie, and get a chance to see it, I highly recommend it. It's really well worth it.
Yeah, I mean, for something like that, that's so historic and meaningful. Absolutely.
I want to go over a little bit with the players that you had come out to support you in your collaboration with the movie as well. Brian Propp has always been a really big ally with me as well on the Flyers. He, from the time I met Brian in 2009 or 2010, he was always very sharing with his stories about Pelle Lindbergh and his energy level, and just always being, proactive with tell me about this as well. And then you get into the Rick Tockett's and the Brad Marshes and the Bob Kellys as well. And like I said, Bill Meltzer has done a fabulous job in bringing that to the fruition. But how did you get all the buy-in from the players as well with a really difficult topic to keep it on a PG-13 level, to have them share their experience about Pelle without crossing over that line? It's a very slippery slope.
Yeah, we keep referencing Bill Meltzer. I mean, he gave me all the contact info for these people. He said, "Sure, use my name," and that's what I did. And I followed up. We set up a time to meet, and pretty much business as usual. Getting Brian Propp was a little tricky because he lives down in Marco Island, Florida, which is in Southwest Florida near Naples, but he does come up quite a bit. So I was able to meet with him in Marlton, which is where Pelle lived, and we didn't film at his old house. We met somewhere in Marlton, and Brian was great. And speaking of Brian, he went through his own trauma, suffering a severe stroke, and he wrote a book, and it was great to sit down with a guy that probably should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But Brian was great, and he was certainly a compelling interview. When I started studying Brian, I didn't realize he was on that 1980 team that should have beaten the Islanders, but Leon Stickle had other ideas.
Wow, the offside call.
Yeah, he was on that team, and
rookie.
I tell you, I looked at Prop's career, and I think he's played in 5 finals or something like that, and lost all of them.
Everyone, yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. I remember with the Bruins, maybe one would help me out here. Maybe Minnesota,
North
Stars. Yeah, he's
3 with the Flyers, 1 with Boston, 1 with Minnesota.
Yeah, he's had his share of close calls, and he's doing well today. I just talked to Brian the other day, and I was really happy to get him in the movie. And Mark Howe, I mean, what can you say about Mark Howe? He's one of the greatest defensemen ever to play for the Flyers. His dad was top 5 all time NHL players.
Top 3.
One of the best, yeah, for his era. And I mean, Gordy's Mark's story is interesting in that the Flyers' next game that they played after the Pelle accident, Mark Howe scored in that game, and he talked about coming back to the bench almost in tears. He visited Pelle at the hospital, and it was just him and Pelle in the room. And in the movie, we talk about all that and what Mark Howe said to Pelle. So we also got Dave Brown, who just a good man, scouts for the Flyers, and he texted me. He told me he was going to be at tonight's Devils Florida game, and I almost just because he's a good guy, I was thinking about just going to the game to say hi, but I'm so busy promoting this film that I had to stay in and obviously do this podcast with you. But yeah, I mean, we got Chico Resch, who was traded to the Flyers because the Flyers needed goaltending depth. Chico's a character. I mean,
yeah,
he's 75 years old and he's still calling games for the Devils on their radio.
One of the guys that you had on as a guest as well, just to jump in on this one, that really landed with me was Bob Froese. Like, just the humility. Bob's interview left me with, next to Bernie Perrant, was the hardest to watch. I mean, like, there's a couple, Kathy McNeil's, that was hard to watch as well. But they were all genuine and vulnerable and just filled with humility and the human experience of grief and sitting inside of that. And it's 40 years later, and they're still sitting from that experience as well. And every single one of them that I've talked to, Brian Prop has, been instrumental in, connecting with the Flyers the last 15 years. Losing Bernie Perrant this year as well has been a huge kick in the teeth as a Flyers fan. And when Brian had a stroke, the first words he spoke when he woke up was the words Bernie Perrant.
He said that in the movie, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
And then as well, Bob Froese talking about, how he was a 20-something goaltender trying to be a starter, and how he's really wrestling with taking the humanity out of it and the grief and death out of it, and talking about how he was ashamed about how he's thinking that he's going to be a starter now, and he's still 40 years later still sitting with that guilt and that shame in the back of his eyes, and it was just like to capture those moments was just really indicative of what a great film this has really turned out to be.
Well, thanks for picking up on all those little nuances. I really always try to put a human element with all of my documentaries. Documentaries are about people, and we're all curious by nature about people. We look at people, that we do people watching. We like to know about their personal business. I mean, we're kind of curious about people in general. And again, I always try to find that human element in all my films. And Bob Froese, we flew to Buffalo to interview him, and he became a pastor because of the passing of Pelle Lindbergh. So again, the consequences and the effects of what one decision can do should never be understated. I flew out to Phoenix to get Murray Craven, who was the only Flyer to visit the crash site after this happened. You know, obviously because it happened at 5:40 in the morning, and everybody was, well, supposedly sleeping. So Murray was actually at the crash site, freaking out, trying to find out what happened. What happened? Is Pelle going to be okay? That the police had to calm him down and put him in their patrol car. One of them even told me that they thought that maybe they arrested Murray. I mean, not to hold him or anything, but just to calm him down. And you know, Murray was only 21 years old, like Rick Tocchet. So they're kids. They don't have any experience with death, most likely. So yeah, I was lucky to get all these people in the film. I flew down to Florida. I got Pelle's best friend, Kevin Cady, who was an equipment manager. Also, Bobby Taylor, the chief, who called many games for the Flyers on Prism with Gene Hart. Bobby was also a goalie. He was the backup goalie for Bernie Parent when they won those 2 cups in the mid-'70s with the Broad Street Bullies. So very lucky to get all these people in the documentary. We got Dale Arnold, who called Maine Mariner games when Pelle was a goalie in the AHL. So between all of those people I mentioned and the 2 miracle crash survivors, we have a documentary on our hands here. We have a legit doc that I think people should watch.
And there's one of the things that struck me with the storytelling was just what a close-knit family the Flyers were at that time, and even Rick Tocchet talking about of the 18 NHL seasons he's been with. That was the most tight-knitted team or organization he'd ever been with. I mean, my friend Justin Bergliani interviewed Mr. Snyder as well about Pelle and that loss. Just need to be said as well, because I'm getting a little choked up thinking about it as well. But Derek Settlemeyer, whose father was the head trainer for the Flyers as well, and Derek in his own right went on with the Flyers to replace his dad, had that one scene where he's got Pelle's 1980 Olympic bag that Pelle had given to him. And knowing Derek over the years, he has got a great story about getting in that Porsche as a young kid and going with Pelle Lindbergh stink up the highway. And the story is that Sudsy, his dad, grabs Pelle by the neck and throws him up against the wall and says, "Don't you ever take my kid and enjoy a ride like that as well," down that road. But just the collection of, the good stories, the bad stories, the funny stories, the tragedies, the mix of it all together. It's like a stew as well that comes into the storytelling of what you've been able to create a horrible event, but really narrate how it goes with people's human experience connected to it, whether it be joy or grief or elation, like the Spectrum when they were yelling Pelle's name out loud. It was such a loud arena to play in, to watch a game, and it was pure Philadelphia back in the day. Rocky was filmed there as well. I think everybody cried a tear when they tore the Spectrum down as well, because they were just so connected to either watching the Sixers there or the Flyers there or watching concerts there as well. So this has just really encompassed the human experience. And lastly, before we go, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Bernie Parent and his passing as well. And Bernie was just instrumental in being an outspoken advocate for the Ed Snyder Youth Hockey Foundation in South Philly there. And Mr. Snyder, when he passed away in 2016, I got a chance to interview Mr. Snyder about his legacy and what he wanted it to be. And he wanted his legacy not to be about the Flyers or be about Comcast or the billions of dollars that he had generated as a human being and as a businessman, but he really wanted his legacy to be about giving young kids, empowerment, life skills, using hockey as the hook. And Bernie was the face of that. And in the last part there's Mr. Snyder there in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And I was almost really afraid to meet Mr. Snyder. In fact, I was terrified to meet Mr. Snyder. And there's a story in it in itself of going down there. But everybody had told me how he was filled with humility and, how he just wanted to help people. And every player who ever played for the Flyers has got a great story about Mr. Snyder. as well. And if there is no Mr. Snyder, there is no Philadelphia Flyers, there is no Pelle Lindbergh, there is no Bernie Perrant, there's no Bob Clark, and there's no legacy that goes along as well. But more importantly, with Bernie's passing, I just wanted to kind of put a big shout out to the Ed Snyder Youth Hockey Foundation, where Bernie put a lot of his time, and a lot of Flyers were on the board of that as well. And to give him his due as well, because obviously the Flyers can't be the Flyers without Mr. Snyder as well. So let's move on to your movie premiere as well. So you've got a big night coming up on November the 7th. What are your thoughts and what are your expectations of what you would want, and what do you want to tell people about the premiere?
Well, for all the information on the movie, people can go to the website, swedeofphiladelphia.com, which is right there on the link to my lower right. That will give you all the information. In terms of takeaways, don't drink and drive. Always remember that any decision could have a huge consequence. It doesn't matter what that decision is. It doesn't necessarily have to be about drinking. It could be any decision. And I think this will really give people the what, when, where, why, how, inform, educate, raise awareness about what happened that morning. I think even Flyer fans to this day, they only know that Pelle drank, crashed his car, and that's it. They don't know the specifics. They don't have the specifics. Well, this film will give you those specifics. And that's what a documentary is supposed to do. Inform, educate, raise awareness to hopefully change things for the better. And would like to thank everyone who participated in the documentary. It's my job now to deliver the best possible product based on all those interviews that people gave me their time, and some really poured their hearts out. And they deserve a great film. And hopefully when November the 7th comes around, what am I expecting? Well, hopefully sold out shows. I mean, when you make a movie, your goal is obviously to make a great film, but also to get as many eyeballs on it. And I would hate for people who were directly impacted by Pelle's passing to be at the theater, and for there to even be one empty seat would bother me. So that's why now for the next few weeks, I got to go all out. And marketing a film is arguably harder than actually making the film. Yeah. So again, I'm not Oliver Stone. I'm not Steven Spielberg. You know, I have to scratch, claw, and grind for everything. And as an independent filmmaker, you're a fourth line player trying to make the team. Yeah. I'm not a first line center. So if you're a fourth line player, if I have to drop the gloves to make an impression, I will. So, and that's okay. I mean, I've been able to reach success through exhausting hard work and having that blue collar mentality, just like the city of Philadelphia, very blue collar, and you got to earn everything.
Yeah, and I just want to make one request as well for the people that are watching this. If you are a coach or a manager of any kind of like hockey team for sure, but it doesn't have to be hockey. It could be baseball, it could be football, it could be any organized sport as well. This is something that you want to get your kids out to really press upon the story of Pelle Lindbergh, because for God's sake, God forbid that the legacy of Pelle Lindbergh not be adhered to, that he shouldn't have died in vain, about the message about one bad decision times two becomes 4 becomes 8 becomes 16. It's a lesson inside of this where you really want to press upon your kids, you know, like nowadays, especially with social media, you're one bad decision away from sitting behind bars, for example, or, you know, God forbid, being in an accident like this as well. So drinking and driving as well. But this lesson is for life, and really just to see the cultural side of behind the scenes that most people don't get to see in franchises. Like, I'm fairly lucky that I get to go behind the scenes with the Flyers and other NHL teams, and you can see their culture as well. This is deeply a human story as well that Charlie's put together. So if you have a chance to get tickets, not just for yourself, but if you can organize your team of players to come watch that and bring your Flyer jerseys out to the theater on November the 7th, I highly recommend to come out. I've seen the movie as well. And I loved, especially the very end of the movie. I think there won't be a dry eye in that theater as well. So before we go, Charlie, any final words you want to throw out there, or anything that you want to add, or any wish list that you want to throw out?
Well, when one goes to see a movie, depending on the content of the movie and the tone, one has to be moved in some way, whether it's through comedy, whether it's through information, whether it's through drama. And it's the filmmaker's job to deliver that experience for the movie goer. So I really hope to deliver on that end, that when people go to the film, they come out 2 hours later, just feeling more fulfilled about life, being more informed, being just more satisfied with everything. And a movie goer should go through that productive experience. And hopefully this movie will do that.
Yeah, and we put your Instagram up on the screen there as well, Lionsgate Investigation as well. In a social media world, a review is currency. And if you don't have the ability to go to the film or to watch the film, if you can at least share it on your Facebook, Instagram, social media followings as well, promoting the film as well and getting some more awareness out there. And if you do go watch the movie and you like it, please leave a review as well. Jump on Charlie's socials there or on the website and tell him what a great job he's done or how you felt the movie affected you on a personal level, because that's really what movies and documentaries are really all about. So with that being said, Charlie Minn, thank you very much for coming on the show. We'll have all your links up on the website when we post this as well. So November 7th in Philadelphia, in Jersey. And there is my loyal producer, Cameron Rock. And we will say goodbye to you, Charlie Minn. Thanks a lot for being on the show.
Thanks so much. And talk to you guys soon.
We'll see you then. That's Charlie Minn, the Swede of Philadelphia. It's going to be in movie theaters November the 7th in Philadelphia and Voorhees as well across the river in the Jersey side. And now I will bring up Cameron Rock, my dutiful producer. Cameron, what were your thoughts?
Oh, there's a lot I could talk about. We could have another hour just speaking about, everything I learned. I was so unaware of really what went down, the story, the aftermath, everything with the Flyers organization, the points brought up about guys like Ron Hextall. I had no idea about this. I said, I knew the mask. I knew of the accident of some kind. It's a story I've been told before, but I'm just glad I got to learn more today. And Chuck, there's so much to learn there. Drinking and driving, so many lessons that can be taken away from this. And this is just the podcast. I can't wait to watch the documentary. There's going to be so much more there to take away from this. Yeah. One thing that I was blown away by is Pelle being the first a European Vezina winner.
Ooh.
All the goalies in the NHL now are European.
Yeah, I know, right?
So, for me, I'm just thinking about what a pioneer, like to be the first like that, especially in today's game when, you got the Sorokins and the Shesterkins and the UC Soros. Yeah. It's crazy how it's with Pelle kind of thing. Wow. That's amazing.
I've met Henrik Lundqvist a couple of times, and there wasn't just any time or, he's a very intense man. And usually if you get him on game day, he's a goalie. He's very, very in character. He's always trusted that three-piece suit, wherever he goes. I've always wanted to ask him about the legend of Pelle Lindbergh growing up as a Swedish goalie on the west coast of Sweden. And what, obviously he's too young to remember Pelle Lindbergh or know of him, but just the impact, that gatekeeper had, which opened up the doors for European goalies to make it. And then when the wall fell down, the Berlin Wall fell, that just brought in all over, European players across the board, goalies and forwards as well. But if you don't have the Pelle Lindberghs of the world, who's the first drafted European goalie in NHL history, coming in, and the Flyers were really great about sourcing talent in the early 80s and 70s, looking for those Borja Salmings coming out of Sweden or, free countries away from Czechoslovakia or Russia at the time. But yeah, if there's no Pelle Lindbergh, there might not be a Henrik Lundqvist or a Tommy Salo or any Swedish goalie that comes out as well. So those are the impacts as well that come to it as well. But one quick little thing about Pelle Lindbergh as well that I didn't really know. They call him the Gumper. and I didn't know why. And I said, why do you call him Gumper? And because of Gump Worsley. So Gump Worsley was like 5'7", 5'8" for the Montreal Canadiens, and of course Pelle was only 5'9" as well at the same time. So they called him Little Gumper. And didn't say that through the movie as well. When I was talking to him at the funeral site as well, I used to call him Little Gumper as well. So I just had to explain that as well. So anyway, that's it for Chuck's World of Infinite Mojo. Really happy to have Charlie Minn, the filmmaker, on the show talking about Pelle. I'm so grateful that Charlie has gone through what he's gone through and got this movie done. Like, it's just, Charlie, you get the slow clap at the back of the room like the Wisers guy in the back. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for putting this movie together, profiling the crash and the life and the tight-knit of the Philadelphia Flyers. We want to give out a big shout to the Bernie Perrant family as well, and the tragic loss of Bernie, and we all feel that. So to Bernie's family and to Kim, his daughter, just want to send you our condolences, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the movie theater on the 7th of November for the premiere of this film. And Bernie is literally the best part of this movie. He just gave his best performance and saved it for last. And we're just really so grateful that Charlie got that clip from Bernie as well. So anyways, that's it. So we will say goodbye to you next time. And again, don't forget, there's no such thing as bad boys. There's just boys with bad hair. That's it. We'll see you next time on Chuck's World of Infinite Mojo.